When Spider-Man returns from Montreal after fighting the Hulk, he learns that Harry Osborn is very ill after excessively abusing LSD. Peter finds Gwen Stacy and MJ by Harry's side, so decides to sneak in through another window to join them. As he walks towards Harry's room, Norman Osborn steps in his way, blaming him for the damage that has been caused to Harry. He scowls at Peter and tells him to leave his house at once. MJ and Gwen come outside to see what the shouting is about, when Norman commands them to leave as well. Norman receives a call finding out that his stocks have dropped another 13%, putting him in further financial troubles and making the businessman desperate. Harry overhears his father's call and panics, causing him to collapse and for his condition to only get worse. As this happens, Norman Osborn hallucinates Spider-Man swinging into his home after only telling him to get out moments earlier. Norman proceeds to scream at the illusion, further driving himself crazy and swearing to kill him for ruining his son's life. Norman exits the building in a hurry, only it isn't Norman. He makes his way to an old laboratory and reveals himself as the Green Goblin. The Goblin makes his way to Peter Parker's apartment, where Gwen Stacy stands waiting for Peter to return. Goblin kidnaps Gwen only moments before Spider-Man returns, finding the place in ruins and Gwen's handbag lying next to one of Goblin's lanterns. Peter puts the pieces together and heads for where Goblin is most likely located, the George Washington Bridge. He finds a Goblin towering over an unconscious Gwen Stacy. Goblin begins throwing pumpkin bombs at Spider-Man and flying after him, trying to kill his most esteemed foe. Peter realizes he can't finish Goblin here, so instead hits him with a powerful web, knocking the villain out of the way. From here, Peter runs to his girlfriend, scooping the unconscious body in his arms. But only as Goblin returns to rush Spider-Man and knock Gwen out of his hands as she falls off the bridge. Peter extends his hand and out comes a web, catching the girl as she falls. He praises his efforts as she is being raised back to solid ground before realizing that he did not save her. She did not make it and was dead. The shock from falling hundreds of feet to be stopped straight away from the webs was too much for Gwen. Peter curses at Goblin, swearing to kill him and gain revenge for being responsible for the death of his girlfriend. Spider-Man uses his anger above everything else. He leaps after Goblin, not showing any mercy. Goblin proceeds to mock the boy before drawing the attention to Gwen, who is already surrounded by civilians and police officers. As Goblin speeds away, Spider-Man swings to Gwen but is immediately blamed and threatened by the cops and is forced to flee. Peter, who is filled with anger and heartbreak, storms to the Daily Bugle and demands Mr. Robertson to tell him the recent sightings of Goblin. Spider-Man heads straight to the 23rd Street after being told that Osborn owns a warehouse there. As he arrives, he finds one overconfident Goblin. Spider-Man begins what he promised and starts beating Goblin up, not giving him any chance at victory. Out of control and almost killing the man, Peter realizes what he is doing and stops himself. He stands there ashamed of the damage he has caused, knowing his grief has completely consumed him. As he is contemplating what he has just done, Goblin pulls his glider from his wrist and makes it fly over to him. Only the path it must take is through the web swinger himself. The glider that is traveling full throttle almost hits Spider-Man before his spider senses sense the incoming threat and he jumps out of the way. But the glider hits another target, Goblin himself, impaling him and ending the villain's life once and for all. Peter looks at the lifeless corpse of his best friend's father and thinks that it hasn't made any of it any better. At the end of the day, Gwen is still dead, and now his best friend does not have a father. Thank you all for watching today's video. Be sure to subscribe and comment on what you would like for me to cover next. Have a good day everyone.